Maryland just took a huge step toward becoming the next California in the fight over handgun sales. And if this bill becomes law, one of the most popular self-defense pistols in America could be pushed out of new sales in that state. Quick question before we keep going. Are you subscribed yet? Because gun laws are changing fast, and missing one update like this could leave you confused, unprepared, or worse, in legal trouble. Hit that subscribe button right now so you stay ahead of this stuff, not behind it. Here's what just happened. Maryland lawmakers passed Senate Bill 334, a bill aimed at what the state calls machine gun convertible pistols. In simple terms, the bill targets certain semi-automatic pistols that the state says can be turned into illegal machine guns by adding a small conversion device, often called a switch. Those switches are already illegal under federal law and illegal in Maryland too. But now Maryland wants to go one step further. Instead of only banning the illegal switch, the state is going after the pistol design itself. And here's the part that got everyone's attention. The bill focuses on pistols with a cruciform trigger bar. If that term sounds technical, don't worry. In plain English, lawmakers are talking about a design found in Glock pistols and similar handguns built on the Glock-style platform. That is why so many people are calling this a Glock ban, even though the bill does not use the word Glock in the title. So what would the bill do? Starting January 1st, 2027, it would ban the manufacture, sale, offer for sale, purchase, receipt, or transfer of those covered pistols in Maryland. The act itself is set to take effect on October 4, 2026, but the actual ban on these transactions would kick in at the start of 2027. That timing matters, and I'll explain why in a minute. Now, let me make this very clear. Based on the bill text and reporting on the debate, this is not a confiscation law for people who already own one. If you already lawfully own one of these pistols, the reporting says you would not be forced to give it up. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. The bill would sharply limit future buying, selling, and transferring inside the state. In other words, the current owner may keep it, but the state wants to choke off the future market. Think about what that means in real life. Imagine you live in Maryland. You bought a Glock years ago for home defense. Under this bill, you may still keep it. But later, if you want to buy another one, buy one for your spouse through a normal legal process, or transfer one through the usual in-state market. You could run into serious problems depending on the exact facts and the law's exceptions. That is why people are watching this so closely. Supporters say this is about stopping criminals from turning pistols into illegal machine guns. They point to converted pistols showing up at crime scenes. Opponents say criminals already ignore the law. So this bill mainly hits law-abiding buyers and sellers. And that right there is the heart of the fight. Does the state get to ban a common handgun design because a criminal can illegally modify it? Or does that go too far and punish regular gun owners for crimes they did not commit? That question is exactly why this is shaping up to be a major legal battle. Let me break down why Maryland is being compared to California. California already passed a very similar law, Assembly Bill 1127. That law also targets semi-automatic pistols with a cruciform trigger bar that can be converted with a backplate-style device. California's law takes effect on July 1st, 2026, and almost immediately, gun rights groups sued. The lawsuit argues that California is banning common handguns protected by the Second Amendment. So Maryland lawmakers are not stepping into unknown territory here. They are following a road California already started building, and that matters because it gives us a preview of what comes next. First comes the bill, then comes the lawsuit, then comes the long fight over whether the state can defend it under the Supreme Court's modern Second Amendment rules. If you're finding this helpful, imagine what you'll learn in my next video about the 5 words that can protect you when police start asking questions about your firearm. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. Now, this is where it gets interesting. A lot of people hear conversion device and think, well, of course, that should be illegal. And they're right about the device. The switch itself is already illegal under federal law. That part is not new. The new move is different. Maryland is saying that because certain pistols can be illegally converted more easily than others, the state should be allowed to cut off future sales of those pistols. Supporters frame that as a product design issue. Their argument is simple. If a product can be turned into something far more dangerous with very little effort, then the state can regulate that product more aggressively. During debate, backers described it as a safety rule for gun design. Some even compared it to consumer protection. In plain English, they are saying manufacturers should not keep selling a legal product that can be turned into an illegal machine gun so easily. Opponents see it very differently. They say this logic is dangerous because it shifts blame away from the criminal and onto the lawful owner and lawful manufacturer. Here's the example they use. A criminal can steal a car and modify it for street racing, but that does not mean the state should ban that model of car for everyone else. Same idea here. Their point is that the real problem is the illegal conversion device and the person using it, not the common handgun sitting in a holster or locked in a safe. And here's what most people get wrong. This is not just a fight about crime policy. It is also a constitutional fight. Gun rights groups will almost certainly argue that these pistols are in common use for lawful purposes like self-defense. That phrase, common use, matters a lot in gun cases. The Supreme Court has made clear in past decisions that firearms commonly owned for lawful reasons get strong constitutional protection. So ask yourself this: can a state effectively ban future sales of one of the most common handgun platforms in America by focusing on one internal part and the possibility of illegal misuse? That is the question a court may have to answer. Here's a hypothetical example to explain this. Imagine two pistols on a gun store shelf. One falls under the bill because of its trigger design, the other does not. Both are legal semi-automatic pistols. Both can be used for home defense. Both can be owned by a law-abiding adult. But one is now blocked from future sale because lawmakers believe it is too easy for a criminal to misuse with an illegal add-on. A court will have to decide whether that kind of line makes constitutional sense. Now, quick legal note, this is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult an attorney for your specific situation. But wait, there's something even more important. Maryland is not stepping into this fight with a clean slate. The state is already in the middle of several major gun law battles. Maryland's assault weapons ban has already survived a major Fourth Circuit ruling. Maryland's handgun licensing rules also survived in federal court, and two different Maryland gun cases have already been framed as major Second Amendment fights. After the Supreme Court's Bruin decision changed the legal test for gun laws, so when Maryland pushes a new restriction like this one, it is not happening in a vacuum. It is landing in a state that is already a central battlefield in the national gun law war. That makes this story bigger than just one bill. It is part of a pattern. Maryland has been moving toward tighter regulation, California has done the same, and now the big question is whether courts will let states keep pushing deeper into common handgun restrictions, or whether judges will finally say, enough. Hey, 73% of people watching right now aren't subscribed. Don't be part of that group. Join the gun owners and legal watchers who get these updates first, so you're not hearing about major court fights after the damage is already done. Click subscribe right now. Here's the part nobody's talking about enough. Even if Maryland says this bill is only about future sales, the ripple effects could be huge. First, dealers may rethink what they stock. Second, buyers may rush to buy before any deadline. Third, manufacturers may change products or pull back. And fourth, the lawsuit that follows could shape how other states write similar laws. You've probably seen this pattern before. One state passes a controversial gun law. Everyone says, that's just one state. Then another state copies it. Then another. Before long, what looked like a local issue becomes a national model. That is exactly why the California comparison matters. If California survives its lawsuit, others may feel bold. If California loses, Maryland's law could be in serious trouble before the ink is even dry. And there may be another front to this fight. Maryland already has a separate law for civil actions. That law allows actions against industry members who knowingly create public harm or public nuisance. The law took effect in 2024. It opened the door for governments to sue the firearm industry. Maryland and Baltimore have also already sued Glock, claiming its pistols are too easily converted. That case was allowed to move forward after a court denied Glock's motion to dismiss. Why does that matter? Because it shows this is not just about one bill. Maryland is pushing on two fronts. One front is legislation aimed at future handgun sales. The other front is litigation aimed at firearm companies. So when people say Maryland is following California's lead, they mean a broader strategy. Regulate harder. Sue harder. Force change through both lawmaking and courtroom pressure. Now let me explain why this matters even if you do not live in Maryland. Gun laws travel, magazine and carry restrictions start in one state, then spread. If courts don't stop it, lawmakers elsewhere copy. So even if you are in another state, this kind of case deserves your attention. If you live in Maryland, don't assume social media rumors are enough. Details matter for your safety. One mistake in understanding timelines or exceptions could put someone in very serious legal danger. Imagine your adult son lives there. You think transfers are easy, but then you learn the law changed. If you acted on bad information, you could walk straight into a criminal charge. Details beat rumors. Violating this law includes a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 3 years in prison and heavy fines. Laws change fast. Subscribe now. All eyes turn to the governor and the Bruin test. Follow this case closely. Final disclaimer, this is educational information only, not legal advice. Talk to a qualified attorney.